Hey, didn't see you there. Welcome back to Data Innovation Summit 2022 at another expert session with Snowflake this time. You guys should be here. Snowflake has such a sweet booth with skiing arcade machines. The hustle and bustle is palpable. There's excitement around your booth and around your product. So you're going to tell me a little bit more about Snowflake today, but how about you start and tell me about yourself? Who are you?
So my name is Henrik Nielsen. I'm a principal sales engineer at Snowflake, so working on the kind of the cusp between value and technical approach to Snowflake. So how can customers get value out of that? I'm based in Copenhagen.
We don't have audio on you. Just 1 second. To the audience.
Hang on.
You might hear me, but we need to make sure we hear everybody. So we have audio guys running, sweating.
Panic.
For you. To make sure we get you all the info necessary. All right, we're done. Let's kick it off again.
Yes.
Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Henrik Nielsen. I'm a principal sales engineer in Denmark, based out of Copenhagen. Working for Snowflake for 3 years now as the first person in the ground in Denmark, and been expanding both Snowflake for the Nordics and for Denmark as well.
Okay.
As you said, it's really great to be on site here at this event. It's a fantastic event you guys have set up. Huge this time around. I was here in October. It's like triple the size, and the interest we're getting at the booth is really amazing. A lot of people.
And I guess you guys are growing as well. Has your team been growing the past year?
Absolutely, yeah. So we've gone from, when I started back 3 years ago, we were 5 people, 6 people in the Nordics, and now we're up to over 60 people in the 3 years, right? So that's quite, and on a global scale, it's we've gone from, when I started it was around 900 people, and now we're over 5,000 people across the globe. Yeah, so it's really, really, we're on a good journey here.
Are you a startup, or have you are not a startup anymore?
I think we're classified as a scale-up. We're not a startup anymore, but I mean, in terms of, and we'll be talking about this, in terms of our product, we're just getting started, right?
Yeah.
It's really amazing what we're doing, and I think the customers can also nod to that and say that we have a great product, but we're constantly adding new functionalities and new features, and that make it easier for people to work with data.
I think that Snowflake is funny because I used to be working with a cloud vendor, and it was tough for me to keep up with all the features that the cloud vendor was adding to the cloud platform. But now it's at a stage where even a single product like Snowflake is adding features at such a rapid pace. I know even you guys, think it's tough to keep up with all the new features that are being launched. So for regular people, somebody might just think Snowflake is a database, and they would be right, but they wouldn't be completely right.
They wouldn't be completely right, you're absolutely right. I actually just had this talk with one of our customers who's here, Grundfos. They have their daily work, right? So they have enough work on their desk on a day-to-day basis. They cannot keep up with all the innovations that we're doing, and that's why these events are really a great thing to get the word out. And I think what we're internally in Snowflake customer-facing role, we're struggling also to, get to terms of what is happening in the organization. I think one example is just a couple of days ago we announced a collaboration with Dell that we're actually now, because we used to be able only to be pulling data from a cloud storage, but we're actually now working with Dell to be able to pull data from on-premise as well, right? From on-premise storage. So it is just going so fast, as you say, that new things are being added all the time.
And you know what a lot of people here tend to do is focus on one feature that's particularly exciting. I think one thing that's come up a couple of times here at this conference that there's really a lot of talk around is something that you guys have been doing for a long time, which is the convergence of all the cloud platforms when you want to have these hybrid solutions.
Yep.
You don't want to have to commit everything to a single cloud vendor, or you've grown organically because the marketing department was way ahead of the IT department and had everything on the cloud since 10 years ago, and then IT migrated all the old mainframes to the cloud, and then you have 3 vendors in place, and so, by force, you're hybrid. But you guys were hybrid from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we are cloud agnostic in the sense that our technology runs on any cloud. So right now we're available on the 3 major clouds, but that has also been, in a way, organic, growing with our customers, starting on AWS, making Snowflake available on Azure in 2018, and then in 2019 becoming available on Google. And it's not just about having these isolated instances in the different clouds. We actually have a network underneath. We call it SnowGrid, very nice name. But this is actually the possibility of making data available where you need it. Right. So on the cloud that you need it and in the region that you need it.
And also, like now you're talking about with Dell, even into the real world, so to speak.
Yeah, the real world, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So we still see a lot of companies coming from an on-premise setup, right, that where they have these requirements around data residency, that data needs to stay in on-premise. Not only that, but also, when you're in the cloud, Snowflake is a software as a service solution, where you have to basically load the data into Snowflake, and some companies are not comfortable doing that because then it becomes under our control.
Right.
Now we're also adding the possibility of actually sourcing the data directly from your blob storage via Apache Iceberg. We're supporting that as well. So becoming, utilizing open source in the right way, right? So even though we're a proprietary platform in that sense.
Yeah.
Making sure that we're extensible and work with the ecosystem that is out there in the cloud.
Well, it occurred to me that we didn't actually define Snowflake now, because we said that Snowflake can do a little bit of everything, and I think you do risk becoming a bit abstract. You say it's a data platform, but what does that really mean? And so I think one way that would be nice to contextualize it is from the perspective of your customers, how do they usually ask you to enter? Is it in the context of a data mesh initiative, an AI initiative, a data management initiative, or so your product...
Is there an all of the above?
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah, because you're actually hitting on many of the points that the customers are asking us about. I think if we take the historical perspective on Snowflake, as you mentioned before, is that we started out as a data warehouse built for the cloud, right? So it was built from the ground up for the cloud, making sure that we utilize all the components in the cloud in the right way. We use the cloud native components in the cloud provider. And the evolution has been, so we're kind of a bit of stuck in some terms in that data warehouse, but we've been adding features that support a lot of other workloads in Snowflake. At its heart, at its core, Snowflake is a relational database. Right? That's how you interact with Snowflake from a customer perspective. And the low-hanging fruits there are to look at these existing on-premise systems that are, by nature, they are limited in scalability, flexibility, very difficult to scale up. Whereas in the cloud, you have removed these barriers. And the idea is that so you look at these low-hanging fruits and say, okay, how can we move this up? So that's, of course, the first thing that we see most. One example is also Nordea here in the Nordics, that we migrated their Teradata to Snowflake in under a year. But we would like to people to see us as a bit more open platform in the sense that you can also run data lake. You can have your data lake in Snowflake. You can run data engineering workloads. And now we're also adding functionality around data science and data applications.
Okay.
Data science is around running the code inside Snowflake. So if the code of choice, so whether it's Scala, Java, Python, you can run that now inside Snowflake, so you don't have to be pulling data out of the system.
Right.
So bring your code to the data, not the other way around. And the other one is around the data applications, where we just acquired a company called Streamlit a couple of months ago. And the whole idea is that Streamlit is an application platform, Python-based, where you can create applications and then share them with a wider community.
Okay.
So we're going from the Snowflake to the data sharing, to the data marketplace, where we have content provided by customers. And the next step is the data applications that can be built by our customers and shared between customers, monetizing them as well, right, at a cost.
All right, well, before we move on to the modern stuff that you're also able to do, if we sort of complete the picture of the warehouse that you started from, you mentioned now that you're doing a migration from Teradata, there are a couple of managed warehouse services provided by the cloud vendors. Each cloud vendor has some service that they offer. What is the Snowflake killer feature, in your opinion?
I don't think it's, we'll say a feature, it's more a capability. It's the scalability of Snowflake, because these systems that you talk about, they have inherited these limitations because many of them are ported from on-premise technology, right? So the legacy technology carries with it this limitation around scalability, and it's also usually single cloud. So Redshift is only available in AWS, Synapse is only available on Azure, and BigQuery is only available on Google, right? Whereas Snowflake spans all three clouds. So I think the multi-cloud and the scalability, because we were able to spin up compute really fast in comparison to the other competitors.
Okay, that's interesting. Tell me about the data science stuff. Well, why is it interesting for a data scientist?
So the data scientists, by nature, they work with data. So data is a big thing for them. Difficult, and what there are some studies that that show that around 80% of the time that the data scientists are working on data, they're actually working on collecting the data in that time, engineering the data, getting it ready, transforming it, getting ready for the actual machine learning or whatever they want to run on it. That makes it easier. Having the data all in one place in Snowflake, because of the scalability, you can put as much data as you want in there. You have the data available. Data scientists also have the possibility of training on the production data by creating clones in a very short time, and they can work on that data without the fear of disturbing production. So having this flexibility is a big thing for them. And what we're adding now to the mix is this, we call it Snowpark, and it's a framework, it's really a library that you can import into your environment of choice, and code in data frame setup, right? So you're not forced to use SQL, which is the natural language of Snowflake. You can also start coding in Python, Java, Scala, and so on, and work in the code of your choice. Big thing is that the code is pushed down into Snowflake and runs inside the Snowflake compute.
Right. Okay, so that seems like a good environment to experiment in.
Yeah.
If we talk about the enterprise perspective instead of the experimenter perspective, one word that's being tossed around today a lot is data mesh and that kind of stuff. Is that something that, is that a context that you find yourselves in, or do people, so how does Snowflake fit into that picture?
Yeah, so we're not positioning ourselves as the data mesh solution, right? It's but we fit in well into a data mesh setup.
Okay.
The whole concept around Snowflake running in the different regions and clouds that where you're present, where your business is present, allows you the possibility of setting up these data domains within Snowflake, and then the sharing of the data through one of the key concepts around data mesh is the data product, data as a product, right? So having a finalized product that is created by the domain that you're working with, becoming very abstract here, but that is something that you can, you can share between parts of the organization or with your business ecosystem, or you can also publish it on this data marketplace that we have in Snowflake, right? So these data listings that are curated and documented and observable and findable and all these things that the data mesh talks into, right?
Yeah. So people that are looking to maybe getting started with Snowflake, a department or something like that, is there, what kind of a threshold do you have to cross? How difficult is it to get started with Snowflake?
You can talk about the technical threshold. If you know SQL, you can get started.
Okay.
Right? There is no big, and if you have worked with relational databases before, it's not a big jump. I came from Oracle myself, and after a month at Snowflake, I was already running a big POC with a big company in Denmark. On the commercial side, there is no threshold either. You can start off with a pay-as-you-go model at Snowflake, so because in Snowflake you only pay for storage and compute. Right, so in that sense, there is no entry fee or a minimum monthly fee that you have to pay to have access to Snowflake. If you're not using it, then you're not paying for anything to Snowflake.
Right, so there's no like minimum commit or something like
that?
Not
at all. We can go into a commit agreement, but that is of course around discounts and
yeah, for
things
discounts
like that.
If you already know that you're going to use it a certain amount.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the running the programming languages in the database. If you can just expand on that a little, because I think that's interesting to me. How are people using that?
So it's around, as you mentioned before, it's the exploration of data, right? So one thing is that you can use SQL to explore data, but also if you're as a data scientist or a machine learning background, are used to working with data frames and things, then you can use that setup, which is a bit different than the SQL, right? And what Snowflake is doing in the background is really just translating it to SQL and running it, the steps that you need to get to that result that you want, right?
So there are Snowflake APIs for a number of languages.
Snowpark is actually an API, so it is an API and a framework, right? And it allows you, for one, to sit in your own environments and do these exploratory, but you can also deploy functions. So you can deploy a machine learning model into Snowflake and expose it as a function, as a SQL function. So SQL analysts, they can actually call that function, pass the parameters, and it could be a scoring model, it could be translating, it could be some OCR, things like that, on documents, any kind of thing, code like that, a bit more advanced than what SQL can handle. You can expose that as a function inside Snowflake now.
Interesting. Yeah. And do people, let's see, how I'm thinking about like how the workflow, because I've seen demos where Snowflake has visualizations built in.
Yeah.
But maybe that's more for BI people, and then as a Python person, you might have Matplotlib or some.
Yeah, you can also use that, exactly right. So what we're doing is that we're actually we have a partnership with Anaconda, right? So it's the Anaconda distribution that we are making available inside Snowflake. But you are, of course, also able to pull the data out and visualize it with what is called Plotlib and those kind of tools. I think what on the visualization side, it's around exploratory, so you can write a SQL, get a result, and right away get a visualization of it. We're not trying to replace BI tools, not at all. You can do dashboarding itself. We actually use it a lot internally in Snowflake. But I think apart from the visualization, what we also add to the mix is the possibility, and that's also for both for data scientists and data analysts, is a possibility of bringing in external data sets into Snowflake via this data marketplace. And that's what really makes up this, Snowflake, we're positioning ourselves as a data cloud.
Yeah.
And this is it. It's a bit like YouTube, where you have YouTube is a platform, but the users are bringing the content, so streaming data, streaming videos and everything. Whereas Snowflake is the platform that we talked a bit about, and then the content is data that is being shared, curated and shared by our customers for free, or there's also a cost, right? That can be monetized data sets that you're making available.
So data cloud is this thing that you guys have sort of championed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's something we've spoken about earlier today, the data marketplace, and some people think that that's really the future, both marketplace within companies and also externally. How much do you feel people are sharing? What's the proportion right now of sharing internally to externally? Is there as much excitement in both directions?
I think there is first of all there's a regional difference. We see it in the US, where Snowflake is an American company. We have a huge customer base there in the US. We see more companies doing it there right now because there is a critical mass of, for companies to share data, they need to see the possibility of customers being there. The demand needs to be there, right? And this is just picking up now in EMEA. Right now, we have these listings. So a data listing is basically a data product or a data set that you can get access to. We've just crossed the 1,000 listing threshold, and we're adding every quarter. We're adding around 20% more listings.
Wow.
So it's still, not a very big growth. We of course want it to be bigger because this network effect that Snowflake is creating is really amazing, right? Because the more people that are sharing data sets on Snowflake, of course more will want to be on Snowflake so they can get access to these data sets. But you don't have to be a Snowflake customer to get access to them. We do have a concept called reader accounts where you can, from an external perspective, also get access to Snowflake.
That's awesome. Yeah. That I think is because data sets really push science forward.
Absolutely.
A lot of the breakthroughs in machine learning have been purely because of data sets that have been released.
Yeah, so it really gives you the possibility as a data scientist to have, if you're examining foot traffic for a retail company, you can pull in weather data sets, you can pull in COVID data sets, which you would have to be sitting around procuring from different places. You'd have to look for it at the free data sets. So there's a company in Hungary called Star Schema. They're actually collecting data from the World Health Organization, Our World in Data, Johns Hopkins University, the CDC, all the local disease centers in the different countries. They're curating this data and exposing it in Snowflake. As a customer, you go into Snowflake and say, okay, I want access to this data set. It's free, and then it's going to appear immediately in your Snowflake account, and you can start joining your data into that, and then enriching the data in that way.
Neat.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's really cool.
So for people that want to get started here with Snowflake, I know your local team is huge here in Sweden. You're obviously from Denmark. What kind of support can they expect if they want, don't want to start on their own?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have teams of course, account executives, but we have sales engineers like me who have a background in either data science, data warehousing, and so on. And we're happy to go out and talk to customers and give demos. We have hands-on labs that we can provide so you can get started. We actually have one tomorrow here at the Data Innovation Summit at 10:30. One of my colleagues is running a hands-on lab.
That's what you have to be here for, because there's this kind of stuff happening here. But you guys can obviously go to customers and brainstorm and do all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Together.
I mean, here in the Nordics, we're present in all countries, right? In Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland. We have, as I said before, 60 people. We're 10 people in Denmark. So, and working with really big companies like Vestas and Grundfos and companies like that in Denmark. And here in the Nordics, we're seeing a lot of traction right now.
Right. Excellent. Okay. Well, I guess that's about as good an intro as we can get in a half hour. The next thing is for you guys to get in touch and get a real life demo.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We're doing the demos at the booth, and we're having people coming from the workshop tomorrow. Still time to sign up for that if you're here in Stockholm.
Excellent. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining today. We're going to have another session very soon. Thank you for your excellent presentation, and I'll be seeing you shortly. Thank you.